just to open the session up, the session is all about can L&D benefit for being part of HR, I'd like to introduce our first speaker this afternoon, Jon Ingham. Jon, over to you, and your 8 minutes starts now.
Right. Last summer, the Learning Skills Conference in June. I think, what was it, Charles Jennings' session? I was only following the Twitter stream. It seemed to be lots about the strategic opportunities for learning development and how much we can contribute to the business agenda and all this sort of stuff, which I passionately agree with. And then Paul tweets this one about, to capture that opportunity, L&D needs to be freed from the dead hand of HR, something like that. So my own background is mainly in HR. In HR consulting, I was HR director with Ernst & Young as well. I'm known mainly these days for my brand Strategic HCM, Human Capital Management, focusing on working with organisations to create human capital, which I'll come back to in a second. And whenever I work with a client, I very much approach an issue from the perspective of understanding their own needs and then mixing HR, L&D, OD interventions, whatever it may be. So my own experience sort of made me thinking this can't be right. If L&D is going to capture the strategic opportunities for us, it can't be about separation. There has to be something pulling us together. And in fact, it seems to have been a growing conversation over the last couple of years. And one of the key aspects of it to me is I contributed a chapter to this book that the ASTD published last summer, the Guide to Integrated Talent Management. So there's a chapter from me, a chapter from Marshall Goldsmith, a chapter from Ed Hall, lots of great people. Other than me. But my own chapter in it was sort of arguing that, I think we all understand we need that vertical integration between the business strategy and what we're trying to do and the mission and values of the organisation and L&D. But we also need this horizontal integration as well between different aspects of that L&D, but also with HR and reward and recruitment, because we are all focusing on the same thing. And quite a lot of the time when I work with clients, I come at some people management from this perspective that to be strategic, to increase our impact, we need to focus on the outcomes that we're trying to create rather than the activities that we're undertaking. And our outcomes are things like human capital, which is why, if any of you have been following the tweet stream here, I've been having a little bit of I get into these discussions over Twitter quite a lot for some reason. Exchanging some argumentative tweets with a few other people about the importance of human capital. In fact, one of the other chairs in the session that Jason Corsello did this morning was suggesting he doesn't like human capital because he doesn't like thinking of people like widgets. And it's completely not the point. Human capital isn't the name for people, it's the value that people provide to an organisation. It's the value that the company gets from their engagement, their capability, diversity, and so on. So basically, the outcomes of what we do, whether you're coming at this from HR or, as I suspect most of you are from L&D, is things like human capital, and particularly the capability of our people to do stuff, to achieve business impact. And that capability isn't, but if we're focused on outcomes, capability isn't simply an L&D agenda. Our colleagues in HR are absolutely focused on that too. They reward people to develop the right capability. They manage their performance to do that. They recognise people when they're showing performance based upon that capability. So we're focusing on the same thing as our HR colleagues, and it makes no sense at all to separate. We need to focus on outcomes. Outcomes are driving us together. But even if we focus on activities, again, we're all doing the same sort of stuff. And I was sort of predicting what the key themes of learning technologies would be. I don't think I've been that far off. Informal, social, mobile, gamified, measured. You sort of seen that coming up in some of the other sessions? I was at an HR conference last couple of days, HR Directors Business Summit. A little bit less tweeting there, but quite a lot as well. But all of this sort of stuff was on that agenda. You know, they're doing the same things. They're looking at how performance management can move from being a waterfall annual process to being something much more informal that people engage in all the time. They're looking at, social recruiting. Again, there's another conference on today on social recruiting. On mobile, all the major talent management apps are now available on iPads and iPhones, and managers and other people using these will want to access all of the ability to manage their people, whether it's learning or anything else, in the same way. Gamification, just as big in recruiting as it is in learning, and you're starting to see some really interesting things coming in gamifying the whole of HR. Often in-game companies, not too surprising. So one of the really interesting case studies that I've become aware of over the last few months is Shanda Games, who do things like Dungeons and Dragons online. And they've gamified their entire career management structure. So basically, depending upon the number of roles you take on, you get points. And obviously, the more taxing the role, the more points you get. And you can earn up to 100 points by doing different roles. And their grading system is basically, that point scale. So they've got 100 different grades, and the rewards and everything else is sort of based around that. So gamification, again, is central to us all. Measurement, which is often one of the key areas of focus of talent management systems, the key opportunities to extend measurement, to provide more value to talent managers, is to help them understand how different sub-functions of HR relate to together. They don't want simply to measure HR, they want to understand how learning interventions support people depending upon different recruitment sources and so on. It's the integration of the data that provides the value, not the separation. Business impacts. Because the other opportunity you're going to hear about is that actually, it's not HR or L&D, it's actually putting all of learning into the business. And I sort of agree, because that's what that's the end result, that is where we're focusing. Human capital is only a halfway point towards achieving those end financial results. But it's still the outcomes to me which are the key leverage points in this value chain. We don't invest in people enough because human capital is intangible. If you were in the keynote this morning, I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sorry?
John.
And he was talking about things that we can't see and describe, like people, receive less attention than things that we can, like computers. It's exactly the same thing here. We tend to focus on business impacts because we can see the financial value. We put much less focus into human capital because it's intangible, we can't see it, we can't describe it so well. So actually, putting L&D into business impact is, I think, the wrong way to go because it's just going to result in human capital getting even less attention than it does now, which probably actually isn't enough anyway. To sum up, I do realise that all of that argument is based upon sort of process and strategy rather than structure. And actually, I'm less fussed where the L&D professional sits. But L&D itself, within the process, within the strategy, has got to be part of HR. And structure follows strategy. So that's got to be the future of L&D to me. Thank you.